The great trade city of Ralos Prime was always alive with noise. Ships came and went from the tall docking towers, carrying goods from 100 different worlds. The streets were filled with the colors of many species, some tall and scaled, some small and soft-skinned, some covered in feathers, others with gleaming metallic limbs. Among this crowd walked Vera, a fox-like widow whose people called themselves the Velari. She moved quietly, her thin tail wrapped close to her legs, her worn cloak pulled tight around her shoulders. Her husband had been gone for 3 years. He had died in a mining accident far out on the asteroid belt where the Velari were often forced to work. The company had promised fair pay, but in truth the jobs were dangerous and poorly rewarded. When he died, the company sent nothing but a short message. Accident. No survivors, that was all. No compensation, no support, no kindness. Since then, Vera had struggled alone. She had searched for work across the city. She tried to carry goods at the markets, to clean halls for the wealthy, even to serve drinks at the food stalls. But everywhere she went, doors were closed. Some said her kind were unlucky. Others said they were weak, not fit for honest labor. Some simply laughed at her shabby clothes. Day after day she asked, and day after day she was turned away. Still, she kept walking. Her heart told her she must not give up. She was poor, yes. She was hungry, yes. But she still had her pride. She still had her dignity. She whispered to herself whenever her courage shook, "I may be poor, but I will not beg. I may be alone, but I will not fall to the ground." That morning was the same. The sky above the city shimmered with the blue glow of the orbital shield. Ships rumbled through it like silver birds, and the smell of fuel and spice filled the air. Vera carried a small bag with her, the only thing she still owned. Inside were her husband's old work gloves, worn and patched but still precious to her. She touched them whenever she needed strength. She reached a busy dock where a group of workers were loading heavy crates onto hover lifters. The foreman, a thick-bodied reptilian alien with sharp ridges on his head, barked orders at them. Vera stepped forward carefully. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Do you need another pair of hands?" The foreman turned, his yellow eyes narrowing. He looked at her thin frame, her patched cloak, her tired eyes. He gave a harsh laugh. "You, Velari? You would drop the first crate you touched. Go away, widow. We need strong workers, not useless ones." The other workers laughed too. Vera felt her cheeks burn, but she bowed her head slightly and turned away without anger. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. She walked further, trying again at another shop, then another stall. Each time the answer was the same. No work, no chance. By midday her stomach ached with hunger, but she kept moving. As she stood near the edge of the main plaza, a sudden roar shook the air. A massive ship descended through the shield, its engines glowing bright blue. The crowd looked up as the sleek silver vessel landed on docking platform 7. Its hull bore a strange emblem, a blue circle with a white star at its center. The whispers spread quickly. Humans, a human fleet ship. Humans were newcomers to this part of the galaxy. Many races distrusted them. They were bold, direct, and often went against the traditions of older civilizations. Some feared them, others admired them, but no one ignored them. The ship's ramp lowered and a group of humans walked down. They wore uniforms, dark jackets with shining badges. At their front was a man with sharp eyes, brown hair, and a calm expression. His steps were steady, his gaze strong, but there was a softness in the way he looked around, as if he was not only measuring the city but also listening to its heart. This man was Captain Daniel Hale. Vera stood at the edge of the plaza, watching him. She had never seen a human before. She expected him to look proud and untouchable, like most off-world officers, but instead he seemed curious, almost kind. As Daniel and his crew crossed the plaza, Vera moved closer to the workers again, asking once more for a chance. "Please," she said to the dock clerk. I can carry, I can clean, I can—" The clerk pushed her aside roughly. "No, go back to your hole, fox widow. We don't hire your kind." Vera stumbled but caught herself. She wanted to speak back, but her throat tightened. She lowered her eyes, clutching her bag tightly. Daniel, who had been walking past, stopped. He had seen everything. His crew looked at him, waiting for him to keep moving, but he turned instead toward Vera. "Why are they pushing you away?" he asked in a steady voice. Vera froze. She did not expect him to speak to her. Slowly, she raised her eyes to his. "Because I am Velari," she whispered. "My husband is gone. I search for work, but no one will hire me. They say we are weak, unlucky, perhaps. Perhaps they are right. Daniel studied her face. He saw the thin lines of exhaustion, the scars on her hands, the quiet strength in her eyes. He saw not weakness, but someone who had carried a heavy weight alone. I don't see weakness, Daniel said after a moment. His voice was calm, but it carried across the plaza. I see someone still standing tall, even after everything has been taken. That is not weakness. That is strength. The crowd went silent. No one spoke. Vera blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. Daniel continued, Come with me. My ship always has work for those who do not give up. Vera's heart jumped. For a moment she wondered if it was a cruel joke, but the look in his eyes told her it was not. It was genuine. The dock clerk snorted. You don't want her, human. She'll bring you bad luck. Daniel's gaze turned sharp. Luck has nothing to do with honor. She comes with me. Without another word, he offered his hand. Vera stared at it. Her claws trembled as she reached out slowly and placed her hand in his. It was warm, steady, real. The crowd watched in silence as Daniel led her toward his ship. For the first time in years, Vera felt the heavy chain around her heart loosen. She had been noticed. She had been respected. She followed him up the ramp, her steps hesitant but filled with a strange new light. Behind her, the city continued to buzz and roar, but she no longer felt its weight pressing her down. Inside the human vessel, the corridors glowed with soft light. The crew moved with purpose, some glancing curiously at the newcomer. Daniel guided her to a quiet room and turned to face her. You said you want work, he said simply. We can always use hands willing to learn. It won't be easy. It may take time, but here effort is valued. Not rumor, not prejudice. Vera's throat tightened. She tried to speak, but tears filled her eyes. She had promised herself she would not cry in front of strangers. But now she felt the years of rejection and loneliness begin to break. She nodded slowly. I will not disappoint you, Captain. Daniel gave a faint smile. I believe you. As he left the room, Vera sank onto the bench. She touched the worn gloves inside her bag, her husband's gloves, and whispered, Do you see, my love? Perhaps life is not finished with me yet. For the first time since his death, she felt hope bloom inside her chest. It was fragile, yes, but it was real. Out in the city, no one had cared. But here, on a human ship, one man had seen her dignity. One man had given her a chance, and though she did not yet know it, this small moment would change her life forever. The human ship Resolute Star rose quietly from Dock 7 and moved into the dark skies of Ralos Prime. Inside, Vera sat on a bench, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She could feel the low hum of the engines vibrating under her feet. To her, it felt like stepping into another world. For years she had lived in silence among crowded streets where no one wanted her. Now she was inside a human vessel, surrounded by people who spoke in firm but clear voices, their steps quick, their eyes bright. She wondered if she truly belonged here, or if this chance would also vanish like so many before. Captain Daniel Hale walked with purpose as he guided her down the corridor. The humans who passed gave her curious looks, some frowning, some whispering, but none mocked her as the aliens in the city had done. Still, Vera lowered her eyes, her tail curling close, unsure of herself. Daniel stopped at a wide doorway. Inside, a storage bay stretched with tall shelves stacked with containers, tools, and equipment. This will be your place for now, he said. We need help organizing our supplies. It is hard work, but it is honest work. Will you try? Vera looked at the shelves. Dust gathered on some of the crates. Others leaned dangerously at the edge. It was messy, confusing, but her heart lifted. Yes, Captain, she said softly. Not Captain here, Daniel corrected kindly. To the crew I am Captain, to you I am Daniel. She blinked, surprised. No one of authority had ever invited her to use their name. She gave a small nod. Then, thank you, Daniel. The days passed slowly but steadily. Vera rose early, following the rhythm of the human crew. She carried small crates first, then larger ones as her arms grew stronger again. She wiped dust, sorted tools, and carefully marked inventory lists that humans taught her to read. At first, some crew members doubted her. They whispered that Daniel had taken pity on a useless alien. But as days turned to weeks, They saw her quiet patience, her endless effort, her refusal to give up even when her back ached or her paws bled. One evening, a young engineer named Maya approached her in the storage bay. Maya had dark hair tied back and grease smudges on her cheeks. She handed Vera a cloth. "You've worked more hours than anyone today. Here, clean up and eat something." Vera took the cloth shyly. "Thank you," she said. Maya smiled. "You know, when you first came, I thought you would leave after one day, but you're tougher than you look." Vera gave a faint laugh. It was the first time she had laughed in years. That night, she sat at the dining table with Maya and 2 other crew members. They spoke with her, asked about her people, and listened. Truly listened. No one had done that for her since her husband's death. Weeks later, while the Resolute Star traveled through the trade lanes, danger arrived. A pirate fleet ambushed a convoy nearby. The alarm rang across the ship, and the crew rushed to stations. Daniel ordered, "Shields up, weapons ready." The pirates were ruthless, their ships fast and sharp. The Resolute Star could fight, but the pirates had the advantage of numbers. Blaster fire lit the darkness of space. The crew moved quickly, but the pressure was heavy. Vera stood frozen at first, unsure what she could do. She was not a fighter. She had never been part of a battle. But then she remembered something: her husband's mining maps. He had often spoken of hidden tunnels through the asteroid fields around the sector, places pirates rarely dared to go because of shifting rocks and collapsing routes. Her heart raced. Could it help? Should she speak? She gathered her courage and rushed to the command deck. The crew looked at her in surprise, but Daniel turned, his eyes steady. "Vera, what is it?" She caught her breath. "The pirates know the main routes, but near here there are mining tunnels. My husband worked them. Dangerous, yes, but if we go through, they cannot follow. They do not know the paths." Daniel studied her face. The deck officers hesitated. One said, "Captain, those tunnels could crush us," but Daniel's eyes never left hers. "You know these routes?" Vera nodded firmly. "I know enough to guide us. If we wait here, the pirates will destroy us. If we go through, there is a chance." Daniel gave a single sharp nod. "Helm, follow her directions. Vera, stand by the pilot." The crew moved quickly. Vera's claws trembled as she pointed out the path through the asteroid field. The ship tilted, engines roaring as it entered the narrow passage. Rocks scraped close, shadows looming. Alarms screamed as fragments broke against the shields, but the ship pressed forward. Behind them, the pirates tried to follow, but one by one their ships collided with the shifting rocks. Explosions lit the dark tunnels. The rest pulled away, unwilling to risk more losses. Finally, after a tense hour, the Resolute Star broke through to open space again. The crew cheered loudly. Daniel turned to Vera, his voice carrying pride. "You saved this ship. You saved us all." Vera's chest tightened with emotion. For so long, she had been called useless, weak, unlucky. Now, she had brought victory. She had brought hope. After the battle, everything changed. The crew no longer looked at her with doubt. They looked with respect. They invited her to meals, to stories, to laughter. They called her crewmate, not outsider. Maya clapped her shoulder. "You're one of us now, Vera. Don't ever forget it." One evening, Daniel found her standing by the wide viewport, staring at the endless stars. He stepped beside her quietly. "You thought you were worthless when I met you," he said softly. Vera lowered her ears. "Yes, I believed I had nothing left to give." "And now?" Daniel asked. She hesitated, then lifted her chin. "Now, I believe I can stand again, not only for myself, but for others." Daniel smiled faintly. "That is what humans believe in. Not the strength of birth, not the weight of reputation, but the courage to rise when the world pushes you down. You remind us of that truth." His words warmed her heart like sunlight after endless winter. Time flowed, and Vera grew into her place on the ship. She became skilled in logistics, trusted in crises, and loved for her quiet kindness. She never forgot her husband's memory, but she no longer lived only in sorrow. She carried him with her into a future that finally felt alive. When the resolute Star returned to Ralos Prime months later, the same dock workers who once mocked her watched in shock as she stepped off the ship in a human uniform, walking beside the captain. They whispered, unable to believe their eyes. But Vera did not look at them. She no longer needed their approval. She had found dignity. She had found hope. And above all, she had found a family who saw her not as unlucky, but as strong. For the first time since her husband's death, she smiled freely at the sky. The stars no longer looked like cold fires beyond her reach. They looked like roads. Roads she would walk with her new family toward a brighter tomorrow.